Hey yo, how's it going, boys? What is up? Sora's back once again for yet another tutorial-ish type of video or something, or more like this should be more like which should I pick senpai type of video, right? Yeah. This is supposed to be that type of video because this video is specifically catered to invokers. So because invokers has been out for a while now, probably people are still kind of wondering which one they should get first or which one they should go grab and all that stuff, like, you know. And then, you know, later on maybe they have already gotten like a few and they wanted to know like whether whichever invokers is good to get or not. So at the end, I'm probably going to explain each individual invokers and see what they are really good for, or more like I try to explain as I can. Hopefully I can summarize as good as possible for each individual one. And I'm clearly not low-key flexing all the invokers right now that I have. Yep, clearly no. I am clearly not flexing. I'm So obviously the first very, very important question that I think until today that I tend to get questions for, which is which invoker should you get first? This one is probably one of the most broad question that I could ever receive. It's because it's like a very similar case to the likes of which Juten I should go first and shit like that. To me, a lot of times I tend to always answer with one very, very simple answer, which is end of the day, it's your invoker and shit, right? It's your materials and stuff. So end of the day, just pick whatever you want. It's your materials, right? Just pick whatever fuck you want. Why are you asking me, right? But like, because you're asking which to get first, right? It's like, I don't even know what you're aiming for. Like, what are you planning? Like, what is your type of progression? Or how far are you in the game and shit? It's not like I fucking know that, right? So, end of the day, just pick whatever fuck you want. Just pick your waifu or any like caucus or something that interests you or some shit. That's obviously the easy answer. But honestly, if you want like the much better answer, a lot of times, if you want like actual proper answer, obviously, the easiest way for me to tell you is try to just get the invokers based on Guild War. Usually a lot of times, right, whenever you want to get something like maybe Jutens, like Transcendence Jutens or like invokers, those kind of stuff, or maybe which character you should spark next or something, a lot of times I think it's just better off if you go into this mindset where you just focus on like gearing yourself towards the next upcoming Guild War and whatnot. So like, say for example, on this day of recording, the upcoming Guild War is Earth favorite, right? So you should go for Kame. Or, you know, like say for example, the upcoming Guild War is Dark favorite, then you go for Nia, right? So it's very similar to like every other one. So like maybe even for like, yeah, Fire favorite, you go for Alana, stuff like that. Those are very, very good picks no matter what, right? But like I said, in short, it's really based on usually really based on Guild War. But if you want to know like which one is the really notable ones, obviously is Kame. Kame is really good. Nia is really, really good. Alana is really, really good. Sleepy Potato is also probably one of the notable ones because he helps a lot in full auto stuff. He helps so much in full auto stuff, and yeah, it's really, really good. When it comes, another thing you probably may want to also consider this is also because the fact that you must max out the summon first before you actually get the invokers, right? So that's a lot. That's why for water can be a little bit how do I say, a little bit confusing or tough to decide in a way, because usually when it comes to the summon itself, right, what I would suggest to always aim for the specific damage summons. So like the summons that gives you that amplify damage based on whatever, you know, whatever boss element, whatever. So like if you're wondering which one are those, is like this ones. All right, so for the set summons, there are 6 of them. So Hangman is one. Hangman is the one where you is for Earth. This is amplify thing if anyone's wondering. So Hangman is for Earth. Death is for Dark. This Judgment is for Wind. Sun is for Fire. Then the Moon. Wait, sorry. The Moon is for Water, and then Star is for Light. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 summons are the ones that gives you damage. So usually if you really want to aim for a specific summon to max out first, usually you want to go for the damage ones first, because damage ones are usually the most important one. Because the other four summons are the ones that gives you HP, which is not too important, but they are pretty good as well to a certain extent. So if you were to refer to like Water's case, right? Because Water's case, Moon is her. Hasilia is honestly not that great these days, but like not really a lot of people really use her because she's not as strong as how Maria tends to be. Because Maria's justice is the one that gives you HP, so that's why it can be a little bit hard to decide when it comes to Water. But yeah, if you really want to like get the invoker itself, Maria is definitely a much better one to pick in comparison to the Moon or Hesi, whichever you want to call her. Like same goes for like Wind, right? Because Wind is also in a similar case, because to me, I do think that Sleepy Potato is definitely a much better character to get over the likes of Catzelia, which is Judgment. Catzelia is Judgment. Sleepy Potato is Temperance. Temperance is the one that gives HP. So I just prefer Sleepy Potato overall because I feel like the way his character works provides way more in comparison to Catzelia. Because to me, Catzelia is more like the character that you want to use when it comes to like just like hard raids or whatnot, like you want a solo file or some shit. That one, yeah, Catzelia is probably in a much better spot thanks to that. But besides that, Sleepy Potato, you can probably see much more use out of that. But then you see like the Lights of Dark and Light is only one, right? So it's either you pick Geisenborger or Nia. So this is the first part. You just pick based on whichever you think that that is good for you. So I already kind of explained like briefly on each individual one, kind of. I mean, if you want Fire Alana is still better because Alana is always the one that helps you burst, which gives you a lot of damage and helps you burst Nightmare 95 or some shit like that. So it's pretty good, right? Yeah, I can't say no to that. So this next part is more like focused on like, how do I say, optimal invokers to aim for. So to put it simply, I actually kind of already mentioned that earlier. There are a few notable ones. If you want to know which is the shittiest one, right? I feel like the shittiest invoker right now to date is probably these two. Hasilia and Catzelia. These two are probably one of the shittiest ones. And followed up by that is probably Geisenborger, in my opinion. Geisenborger is great, but Geisenborger is like you only use him for like that one specific scenario as well. Very similar case to the likes of Catzelia. But Hasi is the one probably like the worst one because there are so many like crazy water characters and you don't really even require a character like Hasi like majority of the given situation. That's why. So and then like moving on to like fire and stuff, like you can actually see these two being used for the most part because Frau is actually not really a bad character. You can actually use Frau for like full auto stuff or even like generic stuff, or even the likes of like if you want to have like a much better character to allow you to go for like a much longer battle, meaning like maybe staying alive much easier in like 10 turns or higher kind of thing. Frau is a much better character, but for the most part, people probably prefer to go Alana. It's just so that it allows them to burst a lot better because his skill 2 is similar to the likes of Light Fairy. You know, the one that gives you guaranteed triple or some shit and gives you echo at the same time. And then he also has that field effect that allows you to have crit even though you're off element kind of shit like that. So it's pretty helpful in that regard. That's why for the most part, Alanan is also very, very strong because he also combines with the help of the summon, which is the sun. And because also the sun gives you fucking double strike for your first 3 characters, and that shit is just probably the most broken fucking summon in the game in a way. Probably the one that comes second right now in terms of like summon wise is probably Death, because Death, if you actually Death Nia or some shit, you just get like free what's that, debuff or some shit. Because that's what everyone's doing, right? Everyone's killing off Nia just so she can just debuff the boss or whatever. Everyone just wants to kill Nia. This is so sad. And here I am is like one of those few times where I actually use Nia in specific scenarios and whatnot. I think I still use Nia for like shiny only. Oh, Ultimate Baha HL. That's like the only one I use her for. I think outside of that I don't really use her. Like actually use her, you know, besides killing her off in first turn kind of thing. Yeah, I only use her for Ultimate Baha HL. To put everything in summary TLDR, like the really good ones, actual really good ones, obviously is you want to aim for Kame, because Kame gives you a lot of damage. Probably like it's a must-have for everyone. If you want to use like a much better character that helps support, gives you extra damage and defense, sustain, all that stuff, for water, Maria is definitely the key, because her second and third skill combo is just really strong. Same goes for her, her summon as well. There's her Justice summon that allows you to play around with your HP quite a bit, so in a way that you can kind of, you know, do, yeah, you know what I mean. Nia Death is also probably one of the few best ones, obviously, and I think the other main reason is probably because everyone seems to be S-wording for Nia. That's kind of like normal, right? But Nia and Death is so strong. It's just simply because the fact that just using Death summon allows you to if you actually Death someone, that is, you can actually get like guaranteed triple and shit like that, right? But at the same time, if you actually Death the likes on Nia, you get like 50% defend down, which is fucking amazing, right? And plus, not to mention, if you're also using enmity, she doesn't allow you to heal at all. So that's why she's probably the best one if you want to go for like the Akasha strat or whatever. If you want to farm Akasha, Nia is probably a must-have in there because of that. She helps debuffs, and she also doesn't allow the first 3 characters to be healed, all thanks to like the way conjunction works or some shit like that. But yeah, the way Nia and Death works, the mechanic is just really good. That's why Nia is also very highly sorted out for. Continue on with Earth, right? Lobelia is also very strong, but the main issue is that because the way it's gearing towards to right now, because we're all kind of assuming the fact that when full limit break invokers do come out, we do need to like max out their domains or some shit, because it does feel like that way, you know, if we have to, like, that's kind of like our path, right? In order for us to get full limit break, we have to max out their domain first or some shit. Because the way we see it, when you do upgrade domain, if it actually looks like you're nerfing Lobelia. Lobelia is probably one of the few coolest mechanics in the game, in my opinion, because, you know, the way he works is that when you bring him forward, he starts off with 10, and what happens is that you can actually cast this immediately. And what this does is that whenever you press any sort of skill, anything that is not 0 turns cooldown, he'll automatically nuke. And that thing does quite a bit of damage. So it may be very slow, but it accumulates a lot after a while. Like, you may, like, say for example, you may be only going through like 5 turns, right? Versus another guy who doesn't have Lobelia, but he does like 10 turns, for example, right? Your damage may be similar to the guy who doing 10 turns, because of the amount of nukes that you actually went through in that 5 turns kind of accumulates up to very similar to the guy that did 10 turns. This is just an example. Probably in a real case scenario, probably the guy racing is probably like long gone already or some shit. I wouldn't really say Lobelia is good for racing, but yeah. The reason why I say it's a nerf for him for the domain thing is the fact that when you do unlock his domain, right, he has this thing where you get an extra, what's that? You get extra, what's that? The defense or some shit. Whenever you cast a skill or something, if I recall correctly. So it's just like, it's very similar to like you know, he has a passive that gives you skill cap, right? You know, when you're in the back, when he's in the back line, I mean. So whenever you press any skill, he not only gives you skill cap, he also gives you defend up now. So what I said by a nerf, meaning he's actually slowing you down so much more, because the skill cap that he's actually providing to you doesn't have any animation. So every time you press any sort of skill, you get a skill cap, but there's no like delay or animation for that. But because now when you get his domain shit, he has that defend up, right? So you're always gonna get that defend up animation for every single thing that you do, which is very, very bad in a way. It slows you down quite a bit, but at the same time, if you think about it, it's actually not that bad either. But yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but I think Lobelia is still a good character, but like you shouldn't really aim for Lobelia first. Kame is always like a must-have first. And then for fire, like I said earlier, Alana is probably like the best one because... But if you want to put it in like a simple term, right? Alana is mostly focused for bursts. It's just burst stuff. If you want like a longer type of character, like that allows you to sustain for like longer fights and shit, Frau is your character. Because Frau is very, very nuke heavy. She can heal a lot as well. Because she's oh yeah. Frau probably has one of the really, really good ones. Like probably one of the stronger invoker domains that we have at the moment. Because what essentially happens for her domain is that whenever she Ogis, right? Whenever she Ogis, she will end a cooldown for her third skill. And what her third skill does is that she'll boost attack and defense to herself, but she'll restore all allies and clear ones. But if you bring her from the back, right? Meaning like if someone dies and then she comes into the front, she will cast that twice. That's why she's one of the much better characters to have for the domain stuff. Just because the fact that you can actually reset this whenever she Ogis, which is fucking amazing. So it's like you can just spam this, and each time she heals, it heals up quite a bit too. So you can get 2 clears, meaning like because it's only 1 debuff, right? You're clearing 1 debuff, not like a full clear. So you can clear 2 debuffs, and you can also heal twice, and it cools up for like, was it 5k I think? So it's quite a bit. You can get healed for quite a bit, and then she's also buffing herself quite a bit as well, and you can remove this. This is kind of like a permanent attack defense up to herself, which is great. And plus her nukes, because all 3 of her skills are all nukes, right? Like I said earlier in the video, she's very nuke heavy. Her nukes hits relatively hard. I think if you have like skill cap or some shit equipped, I think all of her skills can easily go up to like 2 mil plus or some shit. I think you can even hit for like 3 mil if I recall correctly. Like her nukes is really, really strong. So that's why when it comes to like longer fights, Frau probably just excels really, really hard in that. Which is why I still kind of use her, but I don't really use her anymore because, well, we have Christmas Nemone and shit. But yeah, don't get me wrong, Frau is still really good. But I think if you really want to really make use of how like fully use Frau to his fullest potential, right? You should try to aim for a domain as well, because the domain buff is really, really strong. Yeah, it's really, really strong. So that's Frau. And Alana, and like Alana, end of the day is just all about just bursting down, because you see his cooldowns are so fucking long, right? You're just using him to burst, and then after that he's like done. You don't need to do anything to him anymore. That's why it's just better off aiming just to use him for the sake of just bursting down. And then for win, Catcelia is, like I said earlier as well, he's more of the very sustainable type of character. Very, very kind of like support based type of character. He gives you like the elemental conversion, and also reduces the incoming elemental damage. He also gives like a special buff that gives you like guaranteed triple and stuff. Gives you like a special buff. And you can also, because he also has like the thing on his passive where whenever you consume a specific amount of your charge bar, which is from your first skill by the way, or your Ogi, whichever. So whenever when you consume your HP, he will heal. You will heal as well. But this applies to all of your wind allies because that's what it says in the passive, right? So whenever he's there, right, he will be able to just heal yourself whenever you consume any form of meter for any of your wind characters, right? So he gives you also this kind of skill. He gives you extra 30% charge bar, you know, he gives you extra CA specs and shit. Then he also has this kind of all ally substitute, which allows him to tank like Phosphorus, you know, or like Paradise Lost, those kind of shit. So that's why he's more like the sustain type of character. Like if you're in a very hard raid, you need more heals, you know, those stuff like that. Quetzalcoatl is that type of character. That's why for the most part these days you don't really need him all too much these days in comparison to the likes of Sleepy Potato, Esta Lirola, yeah, whichever you want to call him. I prefer calling him Sleepy Potato because, well, he's always asleep. He's always sleeping, doesn't matter. But yeah, the reason why he's so good is that he provides so much more in terms of like what Quetzalcoatl is providing. Like, as in, it's not just like the sustain type of the like what Quetzalcoatl is doing, right? Because Quetzalcoatl is providing a lot of sustain as well. But the sustain in Sleepy Potato is a lot different because he the way he works is based on whatever that is happening in the battle. So like for example, these three skills will only activate on like this one activates at the end of turn. This one activates whenever the foe uses a special attack. This one is whenever he takes damage. So it's very, very condition based type of character. But the thing is, all this happens pretty much like all the time anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much, which is kind of funny too because he's forever sleeping now, right? But they actually added cooldown for him, which is kind of weird, right? Because you're not able to click this at all, but for some reason there's cooldown in this character, which is I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't make sense at all. Why don't they just remove this altogether? It's not like you can fucking use this. But yeah, the reason why I prefer him, in a nutshell, is just the fact that you can just use him in full auto just fine. In comparison to like Quetzalcoatl, he provides more in full auto because, you know, he has like, he can auto cast all this shit and stuff like that. It's very, very simple. He's a very, very simple type of character. It's like, especially when it comes to what's that, Guild War stuff. Guild War is probably one of the most needed character when you want to full auto, because he heals you, he clears you, he just constant nukes and all that shit. Yeah, he does all that thing. Because you have to keep in mind that if you know, like Guild War tends to always have like bosses that AoEs your dick off. So because this activates end of the turn, this one activates whenever he takes damage. So this two will always activate no matter what. So this activates all the time, every turn. Imagine that. That's one of the main reasons why Sleepy Potato is so strong, especially when it comes to like Guild War or like maybe in full auto kind of scenario. Especially in a raid where the boss multi-hits or AoE attacks very, very often and shit like that. This guy is very, very strong because of that. And like in comparison to how Quetzalcoatl is, I feel like Sleepy Potato is much better in a way, because he's like, you can actually kind of foresee more use for him, right, in that scenario. Alright, so lastly, we have the star. Geisen Borger is that kind of character where if you really need a massive super tank, because to me that's how it is. He's like a super tank that can somewhat deal decent damage. That's kind of like how I would summarize him to be, because he will not die. He cannot die, because if he uses his third skill, he will never die until this skill goes off. So as long as you put him together with other characters that allows what's that? That provides any sort of buff that, you know, that heals or does any sort of thing towards Geisenborger, you will extend his buff duration by 1. So any form, like, as you can see here, extend the duration whenever he's targeted by a light ally's healing skill or buff skill. So anything, you know, like, probably the best one is like Funfu, because Funfu can heal in a really, really fast rotation. But probably, I think Tico is probably much better now. But either way, whenever he has this, right, he just doesn't die. That's just the bottom line. Because, not to mention, if you're spamming this off cooldown, right, he's Panzerfaust, right? I just like that skill name, man. Fucking Panzerfaust, dude. Oh, man. So, his first skill, right, has a 3-stack max. And every time he does that, he gains extra hostility. And whenever he has 3 stacks, right, he has, like, massive hostility up. So, in other words, whenever he has 3 stacks, right, and the bosses, whatever bosses that you're against, maybe he does like multi-hits, right, will very likely, like, maybe I think 70 to 80% of the time, will aim at this guy. Will aim at Geisenborger. So, like, your other 3 characters will not really take too much damage. And because he's very enmity based as well, you don't exactly really need to, what's that? If you think he loses a lot of damage because, you know, you're using like stamina or some shit like that, I don't think he loses that much damage, because he does get quite a bit of damage despite being like in a light type of grid where it's focused on stamina and shit like that. But he has like enmity and shit, so for the most part, I think you can just focus on just giving him like enmity and stuff if you really want to like give him more damage and shit. He doesn't really need defense or whatnot. I don't even think he needs HP or anything. Just give him as much damage as you can. Because he's there to be like your fucking god tank. He's like your super tank. He tanks everything. He doesn't die as long as you keep buffing. Which is why I think another thing, if you want to use him, is that if you have Kirin, it actually helps out in case shit happens. So like, for example, if you kind of like screwed up your buff rotations or whatever, and then he's going to die like in the following turn or something, and then at least if you have Kirin, you can kind of save him by using Kirin. So you can like recast again, and then it refreshes, right? So it doesn't go down to 0, because the moment whenever he has this buff up, if it goes down to 0, it's dead. That is like it's just like that. He's just dead. The other good thing is that if you don't use him, he helps a lot by being in the backline, because he caps all incoming dark damage for your light allies to 10k per hit. So for example, like how do I say, like Skyfall or some shit from Baha Ishal or some shit, you won't die. If you're using your light team, you won't die if you have him in your backline, because you're only gonna get 10k per hit. Oh yeah, Arc Enemy as well, or like even Shiny as well. Yeah, Ultimate Baha Isha, Skyfall as well. Just, if you're using light and you have him in your backline, you won't die, because you're only gonna get 10k damage. Where usually those does like what, 6 nines, right? 900,999. Yeah, 6 nines worth of damage or some shit. That's one of the main use for him. But like, to be honest, like for the most part, I don't really use him at all, because there's really no reason for me to use him at all. Because the only time I need him is like maybe like Fidel or some shit like that, where I actually need an actual tank. But other than that, it's like normal generic raids or whatever. You can actually just use your standard light characters and whatnot, and I'm very certain you're just gonna do fine. So yeah, end of the day, the most sorted out for is always Kame and Nia. These two is the most sorted out for at the moment. It's followed by Alana as well. This 3 is the most sorted out characters for invokers because of what they provide. The other ones are really just based on what you're planning to aim for. Alright, I kind of miss explaining what Hassie actually does, but if anyone is wondering, Hassie is a type of a character that kind of like debuffs like one of the special things that Hassie has is that she has this skill called Boaz. I don't know how to pronounce that shit. But This debuff is very, very special. Is because that it's very similar to the likes of the other Sid characters where you can stack attack and defend down, stackable kind of shit. Very similar to like Monkey as well too. So you can stack this up to 3 times and it's a permanent debuff. It doesn't get removed. It's just there permanently. And the other reason why this is so special, her delay will never miss. This delay of hers, right, has a guaranteed accuracy. It's 100% chance of landing no matter what. How many times you press, it will always land. That's probably one of the best things about Hassie. So if you need a character that has guaranteed delay, yeah, I guess you can kind of use her. And then her second skill is kind of like, yeah, it's fine. It gives like damage immunity, like unchallenged and shit. Yeah, it's on one character, but that's really kind of about it. I mean, her third skill is kind of okay. You just get this, you know, because you know her moon summon thingy. Whenever you have that moon buff thingy, because she also does whenever you Ogi. Whenever you have like a specific turn, right, your attack and defense get boosted based on that. So she has that. So whenever you have that buff up and then you use this, so that thing gets stronger. Yeah, that thing gets stronger. Yeah, attack specs get stronger. So she also buffs similar as that. And the other thing she has is that whenever she comes to the front, she can cast it twice. She can cast her skills twice. So which is nice. So you can cast either this, or double of this, or double of this, and then double of this, because this two is linked, right? So you can either choose 1-1 or 2-2, 2-2. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. She's very whenever she switched to the main ally, she's very similar to Frau, because that's what Frau does as well, because she can cast twice. But if you're planning to just use her for backline, her so-called what's that, progression? Her progression works differently, by the way, but her progression is 1% per turn, if I recall correctly, which caps out to 20%, which requires you to do 20 turns. If I recall correctly, that should be the number. So it's pretty slow, but it basically is kind of like a unique mod or some shit. It stacks with like everything. So it's pretty nice, but like, yeah, she can be kind of nice, but I feel like because you know, Water has so many characters these days. It's very, very hard to fit a character like her in your lineup these days, or even like the back line too, because Water has so many good characters. Like if you really need that kind of character, I just feel like Maria is a much better character to fit in that role, rather, because you know, she has like, you know, this crazy thing here. You know, you just get extra damage altogether for everyone whenever you and then if you put her in a backline as well, you get like, whenever you cast a dispel, you automatically get an extra nuke, and then you do like a attack and defend down stackable kind of shit. It's just so strong just having her. And plus, if you have her in the front line, this two combo, it just makes her so much stronger. Because this thing is fucking insane. Don't forget, this thing is 100% defense. So you have 100% defense on everyone. Imagine adding this to the likes of that troll guy. That guy probably just don't receive any damage. It's pretty. She's much better, and cause like Booba, yeah. I think that's it, right? Yeah, I think I explained everyone already. But oh yeah, I didn't really explain Kame, right? But Kame is always just backline anyways. Either you use him in the backline, or you use him to copy Ground Zero, or you use him to copy the likes of Zeta Vasiraga. That's really about it. But I can assure you that 99% of the time, you're just gonna put him in the backline. Just put him in the backline. Much better. His utility being in the backline is already superb, right? End of the day, Kame, Nia, Alana, and the rest just pick whatever you want. Yeah, hopefully you guys find this helpful in any way. If you need more help, you can always come on stream or go to my Discord and ask for help there. And I'll see you guys on the next video or on stream. Yeah, okay. Alright.